Okay, today is miserable and crappy out, so we have two reviews. We have this one, we're just going to talk about lighting for project 2. So for your project, I'm asking you to take a subject, light it in different ways, and shoot it a couple different times. Just some ideas of how you can approach lighting. All of these are pretty simple. You can use, light from your phone. There's an app I got for free called Color Screen, where it basically just takes the screen of your phone and lets you make it a color, make it really bright. So if you're in a dark room and you're holding it up to something, that's a way of lighting. Use your computer monitor, desk lamp, Christmas lights, fluorescent light, a bare light bulb with no lampshade, window light. I have some gels that people can take home today. If you have LED bulbs, those are great. Pure daylight, golden hour light, car headlight, skylight, reflected surface light, flashlight. Any type of light you want to try to use is fine. Be creative with it and see what you can get. Let's see. And then some ideas to kind of work through are to try lighting from above, below, straight ahead, backlighting. Use multiple light sources and temperatures if you can. Shoot up close or far away. Selfies are allowed if you want to just do selfies. Just make sure that you change up your lighting. You could create a still life. You could take a piece of artwork and bring it into different lightings so we can look at how does the way that we perceive the color and the artwork shift in different lighting. This is just a good review of cheap light tricks for if you are trying to light things at home.
Portrait photography. The number one question everyone asks right when they start taking photos is, how do I make my work stand out? Well, the first thing that you can do is by distinguishing your own look. How do you do that? You play with the light, you figure out what kind of photos you like taking, you figure out what kind of people you like taking photos of. We're gonna go over a few ways that you can light your shoot with just a few lights on the cheap and while getting your own distinct look. So tip number 1 is get the subject to light themselves. So boom, ALM9. These things are beasts, and what you can do is you can get them to hold these each in one hand. They cost about $40, so they're not that expensive. But as you can see, it's a good way to get a different kind of approach to the lighting game and a little bit more freedom with how you want them to move the lights around, get different angles. If you're in darker spaces or lighter spaces, you can control the dimness a little bit more. And the front of the light comes with a little plate that is attached to a magnet. You can put a little diffusion on there, and it's a good way to get an even, soft light held by your subjects. Now for this next one, you can use the M9s as well, but what I did is just took the front plate off, slapped a gel on there, and then got Pablo to hold them himself, again, just like last time. But what this does is just allow you to kind of move around and get different angles, and they can move the lights around as they want, and it just kind of gives you a little bit more freedom, and it's quicker if you're in a rush to get a certain amount of shots in because there's no setup involved. So the beauty of having a small little light source like this is you can do all different kinds of things with it. So I tried out a couple of options, like I put it in a book for one shot, but I didn't really like how it turned out, so I just had him throw the book down and then try other things. You don't need light stands or setups at all, and you can kind of just quickly play on what you think is working and what's not working. Next setup is Christmas lights. Now, I thought they'd be selling them at the store, but they weren't because summer. So what they do sell are these kind of like Edison bulb type things in the garden section. So I kind of just hung those on a C-stand. But as you can see, it kind of creates that bokeh magical flary look in the foreground, and then I had Pablo sit behind the lights, so it lit his face and you could see a little reflection in his eyes. It came out looking all right. Now, If you use a shallow depth of field, you won't be able to tell what kind of lights they are. It keeps things out of focus, and it makes a nice, warm, diffused light on the subject. So if you have to shoot corporate events or weddings or anything that requires like a nice setup and it needs to be very professional looking, you can use one light. And so what I've been using is the 100D made by Aputure, and I use the light dome to create the big diffuse.
I'm gonna skip this part because I don't want anyone to go out and buy or we can watch this part, but I don't want anyone to go out and buy expensive lights for this project. I want you guys to just find things that you have and make them work.
Fusion, it's a very nice soft light, but what I do is I just use this single light and move around. And as you can see, I can get all of those classic looks like Rembrandt, which gives you that triangle on the other side of the face that's kind of at a 45-degree angle looking down. Then you can get the split lighting, which is just from the side. It's just very dramatic because it creates the shadow on the side of the face. You can do broad lighting, which allows you to kind of play with what side of the face you want the shadow to be on in relation to the camera. What this can do is if you're going to shoot corporate photographs, you don't have to carry around some giant lighting setup. You can just carry around a C-stand and a light. Talk about shaping light. The beauty of doing this is that you have way more control over your image. Now, you've seen these in films where people use barn doors and they kind of, only focus on the eyes or whatever it is, they're controlling the light a certain way. Well, what we did was we used a foam board, we cut squares in it and then moved it up and down on the light until we got kind of a pattern or a form that we wanted. And what this does is kind of lets you light up certain areas of your subject or kind of create whatever type of image you want. Now, if you're just by yourself, you can put it up on a C-stand with a clamp and set it up however you need. I had somebody do it for me, but the point is that you can do this yourself and you can cut whatever shape, whatever it may be, to fit whatever look you're going for.
Something like that too, I think, is a good example of using light to kind of.
For photographs, this is that you have whatever it is, they're controlling the light. This is kind of somebody do it for me.
So using something like a tool like that, like just taking a piece of cardboard and cutting holes in it, I think we really start to see the range of color, how color changes over the figure's shirt, through the shadows, how the color of light actually influences what we're looking at.
Lastly, go outside. And if you can't go outside, go near a window. And if it looks ridiculous or if you feel ridiculous standing right up against a window, just remember pictures only exist within the frame that you take them. So everything outside in the real world, no one's gonna know what it looks like. So if you shoot tight enough, it's gonna look great. Now, once you've left the studio and you're out into the world, look at all the lights that are given to you. So look at the street lights, look at street signs, any light that's coming out that's not yours, consider it a light source and a way to light your subject. Nighttime is a perfect way to find all the available lights that aren't yours and make something really great with them. So signs in buildings or whatever, you can use to light your subject. It looks really cool. A lot of the times they're very neat colors that you normally wouldn't shoot with. Being a good photographer is about finding the light and making something work with it, whether that be natural light, artificial light, or light that you're carrying around in your pocket, like your phone. That about wraps it up today. I hope you like these setups. Comment below if you know a few more or some types of photography tips that you want to see in the future. and comment, subscribe. You know the drill. I'll see you in the next one.
So what are we trying to do here with this assignment? This is like the 4 very simple kind of tenets of it. Look at how different temperatures and colors of light affect our perception of color, experiment with ways of generating and manipulating light, practice adjusting the white balance, saturation, and contrast in photos using simple photo editors, and then explore different elements of composition through lighting and contrast. I think photos, when you're taking photos, like trying to create a scenario in which you have to do the least amount of editing possible is always the best move. But if you do take your photos and you want them to pop a little bit more, this is an example of like 3 photos that I took of the same subject. I have like my little plant. So this is actually just from a monitor that I had that I kind of laid flat behind it with a print that I made. This is from a gel that I have, which I'll be giving you guys gels to use today. And then these are 2 LED bulbs that I had. So I had a blue one and a red one. Really shifting how we would understand the color of something like this. Like we lose all of the yellow in here. We have different understandings of the way that the pot is colored, along with like the shadows and the highlights, different angles. So basic elements of editing your photo. I'm sure a lot of you have done this like on your phone or on your like laptop. This is something we can definitely do with like whatever existing tools you have, but think about your cropping. What elements are left in your photo? Is there anything distracting around the edges? Can you bring your subject in tighter? I think I've left comments for you on for a couple of you on some of your assignments when you're taking photos of your own work, to think about the cropping. Like if you have extra elements in there, like the edge of a table or something distracting, like just crop it out. It takes 2 seconds and it just really makes your photo more professional. The contrast, that's gonna be the differentiation between the brightest white and the darkest black. Then your hue and your saturation, your vibrancy of color. We've got your tint, your temperature, and your exposure. Tint, we can see here, it's shifting between more of a green and more of a magenta. Temperature shifts between blue and orange, so kind of shifting between the cool and the warm. And then exposure is just the strength of light in your photo. So if you want to like pull it up a little bit to make it like kind of blast light on the photo more, that's fine. Or if you want to pull it down. Something else I like to do that's kind of simple is just play with these levels up here. This is like a histogram of the different color levels within a photo. We've got red, green, and blue. Play around with them. I think they're pretty simple to move the sliders back and forth. This is just like editing photo on a MacBook. I think that if you have a PC, it's a very similar process. Same with an iPhone. All of these things are available. Just spend a little time with your photos. Touch them up a little bit just to kind of give them a little bit more edge and clean them a little bit. I think that just like taking those small steps can really finalize your images. Okay. So as I mentioned in the announcement, we have a quiz that we're going to take on Tuesday. It is nothing that we haven't already looked at. I think most of you will find it pretty simple, but let's just review anyways. You can turn the lights on because it's so dark in here. And I have quiz review candy, so you can tell me if you want a Dum Dum, a chocolate, or Smarties. Okay. What? Okay. Blank is the most widely known for his experiment on gravity in physics, but he's also responsible for how we understand color theory today. Known for using the prism experiment. Newton. What candy do you want? Smarties?
Oh my god, I caught it.
Yay! That's right, Newton. Okay, a blank is a pure color without any black, white, gray added to modify it. It should have a place or position on the color wheel. I think I heard Sophia. You had hue, that's right. Which candy? Smarties. Javier, watch out. Okay. That is a hue. So again, a hue is a pure color without any black, white, or gray added to modify it. For something to be considered a hue or a pure color, it should have a place or a position on the color wheel. So that's why we have the, our yellow, yellow, green, green. All of those are pure hues, as opposed to a blank is a hue plus the addition of black. Shade? Did you hear that again? Or who said it? Which candy? I've got Dum Dums, I've got chocolates, and then I've got Smarties. Which one?
A Kit Kat?
Kit Kat? Oh, I didn't know there was Kit Kat in here.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Christine, we're just reviewing for our quiz on Monday. What kind of bag is this?
Thank you.
Okay. And that is a shade. So a shade is a hue plus the addition of black. A blank is a hue plus the addition of white, sometimes referred to as a pastel. A tint. Yes. Which candy? Lollipop? Yeah. Do you want a specific?
You can be surprised.
You're gonna get the mystery one.
Oh, yay.
So that is right. A tint, you can't see these. These say hue and tint. A tint is a hue plus the addition of white, sometimes referred to as a pastel. Okay, next one. A blank is a hue mixed with gray, specifically 50% gray, so it's equal parts black and white. Yes. Which candy? Smarties. Okay, ready to go along? There's like a chocolate Smarties too, and I get really mad when I go somewhere and people offer me Smarties and it's like the chocolate off-brand M&M ones and not like the chalk.
Do they have those? What?
That just sounds.
You guys have not seen this?
Oh,
just sounds
kind of
You know what I'm
exactly
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are not good.
When I was in college once, we were doing like a review, and I remember they were giving out candy, and they were like, if you get it right, you win Smarties. And I stood up and was like screaming. I was like, give it to me. And then it was like M&Ms, which I didn't want. Okay, so yes, a tone is a hue mixed with gray. Specifically, it's mixed with a 50% gray, so it's equal parts black and white. Sometimes we call this a muted color. I was trying to find like a buzzer we could use, but couldn't find anything that was free, like an app. Okay. So blank, the intensity, vibrancy, or purity of a given hue, creating tints, tones, and shades, dilutes pure hues, so these colors become less vibrant.
Saturation.
Yes.
Damn.
Smarties?
Yeah.
We're gonna have so much candy after this.
Oh, I caught it again.
Yes, so that is saturation. I can remember from my roommate's frog's birthday, we have highly saturated on the end here. This is the original saturation, less saturated, and then this is a grayscale, so completely desaturated. The warmth or coldness of a given hue. Temperature. Who said that? Lollipop? The random one? The mystery? Okay. Everyone can catch well, that's good. Okay, so yes, temperature fused to the warmth or coldness of a given hue. So if we remember, if we split the color wheel down the middle, it will generally divide into a warm half and a cool half. That being said, there are exceptions, like we can have a cool red or a warm blue, but that's always in relativity and context, so we have to compare colors to determine if they're like warm or cold. Blank refers to the lightness or darkness of a color. What was that? Gradient. Not gradient. Sometimes it's referred to as high key or low key. Tints? Not tints. It is value. Guys, okay, you're getting you don't have a peanut allergy? So that's a value. That refers to the lightness or darkness of a color. That's how we have the value scale down here. So this refers to color that is created through reflection as opposed to colored light. If we add together all the primary colors of the system, the final product will be received as black. Let me give a hint. So the quiz is going to be a mix of fill in the blank and multiple choice. This one's a multiple choice. Well, first let me ask this. If we were thinking about the primary colors that add up together to make black, what is that scale called? Or like what are the colors in that if we're thinking about that system? I heard like 5 different things at once. What did you say? The other one.
Cyan, yellow, and
That's right. So CMYK. Oh, that one slapped. Okay. So choices for this one would be an additive color system, a subtractive color system. Just giving those 2 choices because one of those is the answer. It is subtractive. So subtractive is like kind of like absorbing light. It's taking light away. If we mix all of those colors together, which as you said, that's CMYK, so the C, M, and Y mixed together to make black, which is K. If we add together all the primary colors in a subtractive color system, the final color will be perceived as black. So, and a good way to remember this is that blank is color generated by mixing or breaking apart light. If we add together all the primary colors of this color system, the final product will be perceived as white. So you said it already, what colors are in this color system? So, say again. That's right, additive. Smarty, Kit Kat, dum-dum, Smarty. So remember, when we're adding these colors together, we think it's kind of confusing in a way because I think sometimes it's easier to think about like taking white light and splitting it apart. But the way it's phrased on the quiz is I'm asking you what color system, when you add all the colors together, creates white and is made of like a light-based color system as opposed to like a paint or a pigment-based color system. So again, this only applies when we're combining light itself. For the color question about it, I'm asking you like what does CMYK stand for, so you shouldn't have any confusion about if it's like red, yellow, or blue, or CMYK. So this is a set of colors all from the same hue, differentiated as tones, shades, tints.
Value scale?
Not quite.
Monochromatic.
Monochromatic. Which one?
Smarties.
Smarties. Yes. Okay.
You definitely played softball growing up, didn't you?
Huh?
You definitely played softball, didn't you?
I played t-ball. Like,
Really? You got an arm on you, I can see it.
it's from printmaking. So when we have to move the press, I'm like that usually.
Were you on a ski-ball team?
When I was like 5.
That's tough.
No, it's not. Did anyone? Who else did t-ball? Nobody did t-ball?
Oh, T-ball? I played baseball.
Where you have it on the little stick and then you hit
I
it.
played skee-ball. Like in the
No.
arcade, that's why I'm so confused.
I mean, that would be really cool
Yeah,
if I was a
yeah,
5-year-old that was like
skee-ball
really good at
team.
skee-ball. Like my dad took me to only bars. No. So yeah, monochromatic. For the quiz, I'm giving you this color wheel. It'll have something like this on it, like a symbol, and it'll ask you the question. So it, again, the format will be like a set of colors, all from the same hue, differentiated as tints, tones, and shades. So we have a pure pigment, and we add either just black, white, or 50% gray to it. Any 3 hues directly next to each other on the color wheel. Analogous. Okay, I'm gonna give out multiple candies. Which one do you want? Smarties? Which one? Reese's? You take which one you want. Did you say it too? No, you didn't. Candy? Anybody else want some? Everyone's like burned out on sugar now. Okay. So that's right, that's an analogous color scheme. So when we think about our color study assignments, we have, you were putting multiple colors together, like you were doing green, and yellow, red, orange, and orange. All 3 of those colors together, analogous. 2 colors directly across from each other, complementary. Everyone, what candy do you want? Actually, chocolate. Reese's Pieces. You can have Hershey's. Carl Lou, which candy do you want? I'm just giving out candy now. I've got so much of it. I mean, now this is like diluting the prize, but this one if you want one. Okay. So yes, 2 colors directly across each other on the color wheel. So basic complements, red and green, yellow and violet, blue and orange. The more nuanced complements would say like blue purple or blue violet and yellow orange, because we don't have cross color there. A base color followed by 2 additional colors on either side of its opposite. It's split complementary. Here, give me another Kit Kat. Okay. So yes, that is a split complementary, kind of like that peace sign one. I'm gonna post this slideshow too on Canvas so you guys can review it. 3 hues. Say again?
Like a triadic.
We've been out on Jeopardy.
I told him, I was like, I'm just waiting for it. I'm just waiting for it. I'm just seeing the little like triangle looking thing. I'm gonna just say it.
But you said the wrong one.
Yeah, well,
So 3 hues,
we'll get there.
all equal distance from each other on the color wheel. That's going to be triadic. Tetradic would be those ones of 4 where we have the 2 complements together.
Wait, what?
I didn't put tetradic on the quiz because
I
it's
thought it was
too.
quadratic.
Say again?
So it's quadratic.
Oh, it's tetradic.
Why is it
Four?
tetradic?
For 4?
Yeah, why is it 4?
No, but isn't there a 4 too?
That's what I'm saying. Hold on, we'll come back to that. Okay. So this one is a little tricky. This is a multiple choice one. Actually, give me 1 second.
I know this.
What do you think it is? If we have a phenomenon that happens when two colors influence each other, changing our perception of the colors, more or less saturated, more or less bright. We can only see this through comparison.
Color vibration?
Not.
Not color vibration. What did you say? Not relativity. Let me give you a multiple choice. Give me 1 sec.
Isn't that contrast though?
It is that contrast thing.
First word.
Relative contrast.
It's not relative contrast. It is. Hold on, let me look at the choices we have.
Don't tell us now.
Good thing one.
It's like stimulated or something.
Okay, is this color vibration, optical mixing, or simultaneous contrast?
The last one.
The middle one.
Oh, okay.
Simultaneous.
Damn. Wait, what? Can you read them again?
It's the middle one.
I'm sorry.
It is
Yeah.
simultaneous contrast. I lost track of which one was the middle one when I was speaking. So, simultaneous contrast. So, this is what happens when two adjacent colors influence each other, changing our perception of the colors. So, it's really hard to see with the lights right now, but remember, we've got the same color in the center here, but having it paired up against, I think arguably if we were looking at this in a certain context, we could see that this like mint green square could be read as white, especially if this one wasn't down here, as to where having it paired up against this blue that's a similar saturation, similar value, it appears more green. So since our brain, or not, color understanding is contextual or relative, like you were saying, Julie, our brain's gonna fill in or saturate a color, especially a neutral one, like this. So our brain will saturate a color's shadow with its complement. On the quiz, I give you like a little graph like this to help. So when two hues are placed directly next to each other, a third color is created by your eye's perception at the border. Is this an example of simultaneous contrast, color vibration, or optical mixing? That is optical mixing. So it states that when this is like a Chevreul theory, when we have got two hues placed next to each other without space in between, a third color is created by your eye. So if we put complementary colors next to each other, we get a gray or a neutral color. Primaries produce secondary colors, so if we put red and yellow together, we get orange. If we put blue and red, we get purple, and if we put yellow and blue, we get green. So that's how pointillists used optical mixing. The most basic component of digital color is composed of only light. They're two-dimensional. They have only height and width. They have no depth. Is this
A pixel?
It is a pixel.
Yeah.
Would you like the candy?
Yeah, I don't know.
Take one.
Playing fast travel.
So pixels are lined up in rows called rasters. Rows and rows of rasters make up the actual image that we're looking at. The amount of these elements in a 1-inch space is known as the blank. This usually comes in the form of like a DPI or a PPI.
Resolution.
It is resolution. Okay, just a regular Hershey's, the only one so far. You're disappointed?
Yeah, no. He's like, I was gonna say that.
So again, we're talking about digital color. We have our RGB system, but we also have these pixels and rasters. So pixels are those tiny little units that make up something. Yes?
I DPI makes sense, but what is dots?
I think it's if you're using something that's not quite a pixel, it's just another way of explaining units per inch. These are forms created using a mathematical algorithm or a formula. So every time you drag the mouse, it gets larger or smaller. The computer recalculates the algorithm, makes a new image. These can be resized indefinitely without any loss of image quality. It is a vector. That is right. So again, these are programs that use vectors. Big difference between a vector and a raster is that remember that image we saw of like the rows, where rasters you can expand them bigger and bigger and bigger because they're just shapes on a like XY plane in the computer, as to where a pixel is a little bit more set. This is rich, warm light created by heating a coil until a filament becomes hot enough to glow. Do you remember what kind of light this was?
Tungsten?
It is tungsten. So this one's pretty simple. It's also known as natural light, pure white light. The source is usually the sun at noon when the light is cleanest and brightest. It is daylight. I have some photos on the quiz too to give you a visual example. I think this is the last one. This refers to a color and its ability to withstand fading, discoloration, or visual/chemical changes as the result of exposure to elements such as UV light or humidity. I would take that. But what's an alternative way of saying it, or saying that? So I would also accept light fastest. So it's kind of like the color's ability to withstand light. And then what's this? What's happening here? Color vibration, yes. So I've got some visual examples of those on the quiz. So I'm going to post this on Canvas for everybody to review. Like I said, it's a mix of multiple choice and some fill-in-the-blank ones.